Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the malice and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all evil spirits who wander through the world for the ruin of our souls. Amen. So the 29th of September is recognised as St. Michael's feast day. Though he's not actually a saint, he's an archangel, one of the 7 archangels. And over the years I've been trying to figure out what the name Michael or Michael means. El is the Hebrew word for God. And some people say various translations for what his name means, but I think we don't actually know what the word Michael or Michael means. And normally names have a great power to them. So if we actually understood what the word Michael or Michael meant, well, what power would that be to have? But most people know Archangel Michael for being the one that took on the side of God in the battle in heaven, when Lucifer called up a third of the angels into his horde and attacked the heavens. Lucifer, for various reasons, had umbrage with the divine and wanted to take, or did he want to take over, or was he just putting up a fight against what the divine source had asked Lucifer to do, which was apparently to recognise humans as being not supreme beings, but I believe he wanted Lucifer and the other angels to bow down to them. And Lucifer took umbrage at this and wouldn't do it, and then they all, started, he collaborated with other angels and decided, right, we're going to take over heaven. And they say it was a third of the angels joined Lucifer's horde, another third joined Michael's army, another third sat on the fence because they couldn't decide which side to go on. And so this battle commenced in the heavens between Lucifer's horde and Michael's horde. But Michael is not a killer, and he did not kill Lucifer in this battle, but he did win the battle. And so Lucifer and his angels were imprisoned or punished, taken before court. Who knows how it all runs up there. But the punishment was that Lucifer and the angels that fought with him were sent down from heaven. They were thrown out of heaven. Some people say it was into a pit. Some say he just fell from heaven and fell into the underground, which is why hell's often thought of being under the earth, because he fell into the earth. And Rudolf Steiner talks a lot about when Lucifer fell from earth, a stone fell from his crown. So angels have crowns, which I find very interesting. Now, was Lucifer an archangel? I don't think so. I think he was of the lower realms of the angels, because there's different hierarchy in angels, thrones and cherubim, seraphim and such like. But then Lucifer down there in this pit that he was in, this is where people get the idea of that he became the devil, is that he obviously was angry, turned against God, his heart had turned dark. He was, his white angel wings, or the light in him, was taken out. People call him Lucifer, morning star. So he was the bright light in the morning. But this light apparently was snuffed because of this darkness that overtook him. And this is why he's often thought of as the devil. But this is what Rudolf Steiner says about how Michael, and today is the 29th of September that I've made this film for, the Archangel Michael, who subdues the dragon. When you look at the pictures of him doing his work, and he's often said to be the same as Saint George, who slays the dragon. And from my own understanding, St. George is the physical representation of us destroying the dark side within us, whereas from an angelic or a divine point of view, we should be subduing it, because we shouldn't be killing anything that is going to the dark side. And Rudolf Steiner believes that us humans are here to help the dark forces, the demonic entities, to redeem themselves and to help them to return to the divine source. And I quite like that, because I like to feel that we do have a mission in life. That's why us humans are here. Many people believe we're just here by chance, but I do feel there's a reason. And I wanted to read just a little bit from Michael's mission from Rudolf Steiner. This is from lecture 2. And he says, once human evolution has passed through the Saturn, Sun and Moon evolutions and reached the beginning of Earth evolution, the spiritual power which brings the luciferic element into the human head is the Michael power. And he threw his opposing spirits down onto the earth. This means, because of this throwing down of the luciferic spirits, the spirits who were in opposition to Michael, the human being became imbued with reason, with that which comes into being out of the head. End of quote. And as I've said in many of my videos, the dark forces come through the head, and the divine source comes through the heart. And it seems like it's saying here that Michael had the responsibility of throwing Lucifer out of heaven. But he's also the one that can help redeem Lucifer. But maybe he's got to take on that challenge, that quest, because he was the one that was responsible for getting Lucifer being thrown out, was part of the punishment. And he needs us to help him with this, because it's not just Michael versus Lucifer, it's us versus the dark forces. And Steiner goes on to say, thus it was Michael who sent his opponents to the human being, so that by taking in this opposing, this luciferic element, the human being might receive his reason. And then the mystery of Golgotha entered into human evolution, the Christ being passed through the death of Jesus of Nazareth, the Christ being united himself with human evolution. End quote. And for those that study the Christian side of theology, we know that Christ was graced with the Holy Spirit when he was 30 years old. So as Jesus of Nazareth, he was a human being. And this is one of the big theological debates that goes on throughout Catholicism and Christianity and such like. But this is what I believe, that he was Jesus of Nazareth, the man, up until he was 30, received the Holy Spirit and had the Christ force put into him, so he became the Christ being. But his human body could only hold that for so long. Let's say for those of you that like Doctor Who, they know that Doctor Who can't, if any of his soul goes into a normal human being, that human being can only handle it for so long. Now it seems quite confusing what Steiner's saying here about the human being might receive his reason. This is back in the sentence, thus it was Michael who sent his opponents to the human being, so that by taking in this opposing, this luciferic element, the human being might receive his reason. So the human now can feel Lucifer in his head, and we have to help that demonic feeling that comes to us, because we all feel that demon telling us what we should be doing in his idea of the world. And we've got to help Lucifer regain his soul, find the light, become the morning star once again. And Steiner writes about this in The Fall of the Spirits of Darkness, which, for those of you who don't have the book, I have put it up on YouTube, which talks about this big battle that happened again in the year 1879. So this battle between Michael and the dark forces seems to keep happening, but the outcome changes every time. The first time this battle between Angel and the dark forces, Lucifer and his horde were thrown out of heaven, and the second time they were again thrown out, or thrown down to earth, but this time it sounds like they didn't go to heaven, to the pit, they came into us. Steiner writes, "The era of preparation has now passed. In the supersensible world, Michael himself participated in the events of the mystery of Golgotha. Since the final third of the 19th century, Michael has occupied a very special place within human evolution. The first thing that should come about through a proper understanding of the human being's relationship with Michael is that we begin to comprehend those secrets which are revealed, for example, in the situation of the human head and its relationship with the other parts of the human organism." And Steiner discusses this in quite a few of his lectures, and how for us humans, the way our head is, we've got it on top of our neck, and where our head's going up towards the sky, where you probably notice that most animals, the head's still on the neck, but it's, if you visualize a dog or a cat or a horse or something, it's not standing upright like we are. The head is sort of pointing horizontally along with the way it walks. It's maybe not, I'm not explaining that right, but see the difference of how animals have their heads and the way we have our heads, which is why we've been chosen to be the ones to help with the redemption. And Steiner goes on to say, "It is essential for us to realize that because of our lack of comprehension regarding the true origin of the human head, we have fallen into error with regard to the origin of the human being as a totality. Through not wishing to understand that a luciferic formation had come about in the human head, human beings succumbed to the illusion that what belonged to the human head could be attributed to the same origin as that of the other parts of the human being. Humanity must now come to grips with these mysteries. Human beings must become able boldly and bravely to face up to the knowledge that they have to improve their comprehension of divine mysteries, which are new to them concerning their understanding of the head, and their purely earthly wisdom or intelligence." What we are saying here, or what Steiner is saying here, or trying to explain to people, is that we must understand that our head is working for us as well, but the luciferic is also working for us, with us, through our heads. And we must learn to see the difference between what is a luciferic force talking to us and our own self, our own understanding of the real person that we are talking to us. And I'm just going to bring in a bit of Gurdjieff here, which is why, there's all these different personalities within us, but maybe one of them's the luciferic version. Steiner says, "This will be the only path we can follow in order to see in the human being as he stands before us, not, on the one hand, something purely of the spirit and soul living in a body with, on the other hand, something that is purely bodily without any soul. No, we must look at something concretely spiritual, which is, however, working in a luciferic manner in the human head, while there is also at work in the human being apart from the head an opponent who is Ahrimanic in nature. Speaking in imaginations, we may point backwards to how the luciferic was incorporated in the human being through the Michaelic impulse, or the Michael impulse. But now, through that which Michael has become, the human being must be deprived of the Ahrimanic aspect. And he reminds us that Michael is the spirit of strength. In entering into human evolution, he must empower our capacity to see not on the one hand an abstract spirituality, and on the other what consists of matter which we can thump and cut up, and of which we do not realize that it is, in fact, only an external manifestation of what is spiritual. Michael must permeate us as that strong power which is able to see through matter, by seeing within it both what is material and what is spiritual, so that the spiritual is everywhere seen in what is material. We are, that's the end of the quote, by the way, we are wanting to work with the Archangel Michael to help with the redemption of the dark forces, to help them elevate themselves back up into the divine sources, waiting open arms, because we can only reach up to the divine, not just us, but every being, including the luciferic. The divine's always there waiting for our return, and we're here to help the luciferic element return to the divine. And Michael can be called upon, the Archangel Michael can be called upon to guide us, and for us to work with Michael. He needs us just as much as we need him, because Michael needs our good intentions and our spiritual understanding and prayers and thoughts, and wanting to be part of this, the spiritual warrior. We want to be the spiritual warriors to help. But it can't be an old fisticuffs fight. Instead it needs to be a understanding, soulful, spiritual, helping the dark side find itself. Helping them go from being, the creatures of the night into the creatures of the day. And not just through Michael, obviously, through the Christ as well. We can awaken the Christ within ourselves, the Christ impulse, the Michael impulse. We can ask them to help us, and we can help them. As the old Egyptian prayer used to say, may I walk with God, or what you name your God there. May I walk with Michael, and may Michael walk with me. May I walk with Christ, may Christ walk with me. We need to fill our hearts with the Christ impulse and the Michael impulse, so that we can then pull that up into our heads and help Lucifer fill them impulses. Though someone did try to convince me once that Michael means in Hebrew like God. What an epithet! To be like God. Surely that's what we are attaining to be as spiritual warriors, to be like God. In the Old Testament it was the Archangel Michael who came to King Solomon and gave Solomon the ring that gave him control, like Solomon control over all the devils and demons and the dark forces, which he then used he commanded them to build the temple. My late friend Steve Ash wrote a book, The Spawn of Azazel, and I wanted to do a quote from his book where he's talking about, well, where did the archangels come from, where did the devil come from, where the dark forces come from, the fallen ones and the Nephilim. And this is a quote from one of his chapters. Primarily, the morning star is the elder brother of the sun god, rising before dawn and shining at its brightest just before the sun rises, and the same thing is happening as it is setting just after sunset. This is generally interpreted in two ways. positively as the herald of the sun, the bringer of the good news that the new dawn is imminent, and conversely of the hope that the setting sun will return. In negative terms, it can be said that Venus is trying to outshine the sun, but is cast out at dawn, only to celebrate the death of the sun later in the day. It all depends on a culture's attitude to Venus. Historically, the fact that the morning star and the evening star were the same star, Venus, was only known to the Babylonians and those who were initiated into this secret by them. So that was from Steve Ash's book, The Spawn of Azazel. And this is my own little review about this battle in heaven, because the number 7 comes up quite often in biblical theology and about the archangels. They say there's 7 archangels that come to people. We've got Michael, Raphael, Uriel. My mind has gone. I can't remember who the other 4 are. Samael. And so on. But what I'm getting at about the number 7 is that maybe if there were 7 archangels in the Michael side of the battle in heaven, and there were supposedly 7 archangels in the Lucifer side, so Lucifer and 6 others, and if there was 7 sitting on the fence, because it was meant to be a third in each army, that would make 21 archangels originally, which I just find quite interesting, because 21's a magic number. The 7s are a magic number, obviously, as well. I know people say all numbers are magical. And maybe archangels are so powerful there doesn't need to be hundreds and thousands of them. Just 21's enough. As Gurdjieff says, the higher the vibration, the higher developed the person is, or people are, there's not a need of so many of them. When there's lots and lots of people, that knowledge and wisdom is spread thinly amongst them all. But when there's a small amount of people, that knowledge and wisdom can be used by each one, in a greater ratio. So I'm just pondering this. I need to look into this more, about maybe there's only 21 archangels. Now my friend Steve Ash has the 7 archangels as Michael, the defender of humanity, and Gabriel, the messenger, and the angel of paradise, Gabriel I should say, Kaphael, spelled with a K, K-A-P-H-A-E-L, the guide of spirits, Kagul, the punisher, Zarakil, the guide of the children of transgressions, and Uriel, the angel of clamour and terror. And of course Michael is the champion of the elect. Raphael is the ruler of spirits of men, Ragiel, the angel of vengeance, Ramiel, the angel of the risen, Zarakel, the ruler of the sinners, and Uriel, the ruler of hell and Tartarus, or Tartarus. Again, there's so many different versions on who these archangels are. O chosen leader of the heavenly hosts and defender of the human race, we who are delivered by you from afflictions offer you this hymn of thanksgiving. As you stand before the throne of the King of Glory, you free us from all dangers, that with trust and love we may cry unto you in praise. Rejoice, O Michael, supreme commander with all the hosts of heaven. With the tongues of angels it is fitting that you are praised as first among the fiery choirs of angels, O Michael. Until you teach us the tongue of the bodiless ones, please hear our tones from tongues which, though human, are yet thankful. Rejoice, primordial star of the world, rejoice, candle of truth and justice brightly gleaming. Rejoice, first receiver of the rays of the uncreated light among the choirs of angels. Rejoice, captain of angels and archangels. Rejoice, you in whom the glory of the Maker's right hand shines most of all. Rejoice, you by whom the assemblies of all bodiless creation are adorned. Rejoice, O Michael, supreme commander with all the hosts of heaven. Through the intercession of St. Michael and the celestial choir of seraphim, May it please God to prepare us to receive into our hearts the fire of God's perfect love.